Hi, everybody, and this is Carmen DeValis, and welcome to the Art of a Meaningful Life podcast. This is the place where we talk about how we can live a meaningful life, what's worked, what hasn't, our struggles, our successes. And I love speaking with guests who have such interesting stories to support all of us and help us learn. And today I'm excited to introduce Stacey Hall. Stacey Hall is a sales success strategist and so much more. Welcome, Stacey.
It is so delightful to be in the studio with you. I've been looking forward to this.
Oh, thank you. Stacey, there's a lot more I could say. I mean, you've done some amazing things. So, could you just fill our audience in on some of that before we get started in the deeper part?
Well, from a business bio, let's say I have been a sales success strategist for more than 30 years. I have written in that time five number one best-selling books. I've been featured in the award-winning movie Zero Limits by Joe Vitale. He produced it. And I've been very blessed to be selected for a TEDx talk, and the title was How to Stop Shooting on Yourself. But mostly I have been, I'm going to say, blessed and grateful to be able to make a difference in many people's lives, especially women entrepreneurs who were not successful before and are now.
I love that. And I met you, well, virtually so far. I look forward to in person through the 262 movement with Deb
Yeah,
Drummond. And we were on shared a stage on the summit. And I've watched your part of your lighthouse program videos. I
yes,
went
the
through
lighthouse
and
path is the process.
yes,
Yes.
and so here we're talking about meaningful life, and I would love to know what living a meaningful life means to you as this uber successful entrepreneur, a woman in today's world. What does living a meaningful life mean?
It really actually goes back to the lighthouse path because that's where everything begins. To live a meaningful life for me is for me to wake up every day, to know what my core values are, and to be prepared to live them in action, not have them be something theoretical, but actually putting my values into action. And from there, being able to be of service to others. So, Carmen, I had an experience a number of years ago where I had, and we'll just call it an epiphany. It's quite a deep experience of being aware that I was too focused on myself and that my perspective had to broaden. Well, we'll leave it at that without going into too much detail. That it had to embrace other people in a different way. And I walked away from that feeling like I had disappointed the universe, God, the divine, whatever anybody wants to call it, that all knowingness, that I had actually disappointed it, that I had worked against it. And I vowed that day that I would do everything I could towards it. And what that means is doing my best to make other people smile every single day. That if I'm with them, I do my best to leave them feeling, I'm just going to say, uplifted. I'm not responsible for someone else's happiness, but I can make sure that my frequency, my energy is not bringing them down, if that means anything to you.
Yeah. So I'm curious about that because we get thoughts, we get feelings, and then there's the epiphany. What does that feel like? What was that like for you? What was that?
I was at a gathering and I felt that the purpose of the gathering was not being honored, that people were doing something other than that and wasting my time, wasting other people's time. And I got very righteous about it. I mean, really righteous and angry inside. And it was the sort of thing where it wasn't appropriate for me to speak out about it. And then at a certain point, it would have completely not been appropriate because I just would have blasted everybody. And I took myself home. I left so that I didn't embarrass myself or hurt other people. Meanwhile, I was still like just so angry about the situation. And when I got home, went up to my apartment, I let it all out. I just started screaming at the divine, like, you know, it seems silly now, but I don't want to go into what the meeting was about, but it had a deep purpose. And the fact that it was not being honored really made me upset. And I felt like I had something to contribute, but there was no way for me to contribute. And so that's what I was really irritated about was, why would you give me this knowledge? Why would I have this wisdom? Blah, 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 if I'm not going to be able to use it. It was frustration, but it wasn't frustration with myself. I was feeling like the world was working against me. And that was a feeling I had had many times to that point. And I was an adult at this time. This is, it was more than 20 years ago, maybe just a little more than 20 years ago. And all of a sudden, and I'm saying I am yelling at the top. I'm sure my neighbors could hear me, okay? Because I was just getting it all out. And all of a sudden, in the middle of that, I felt like all the color went out of the room and all the sound was gone. It was like, did I break my eardrums? What's going on here? And I couldn't talk. It was all kind of in my head. And then I heard a voice. And the voice said, if what they were doing was so wrong, why are they still back there enjoying themselves? And you're here yelling at me. And I'm not kidding. It was not in here. It was the only sound I heard with my ears. And I went, huh. Well, I guess there is divinity, and I've made it upset. Do I kill myself now? Like, like, what do I do? Or have I gone crazy? I don't know what to do. And I said that out loud. I don't know what to do now. And the voice came back and said, we will help you. And with that, the color came back, the sound came back, and I did start to receive, we'll call it personal growth guidance, things to read, like started coming into my awareness. People to follow started coming into my awareness. And little by little, I began to realize that I was creating the world to be the way it was, as opposed to being in the world the way it could be, like
And
just expecting it. And so I don't know if that translated all. Like I said, it was an epiphany that came to me.
yeah.
But from that moment on, I have done everything I can to keep a high vibration, which is being of service to the world and not having my vibration affect anybody else's to go lower. Now, it takes practice. I'm not perfect at it, but it is definitely on my mind from morning till night.
So, Stacey, I want to talk about this experience that you had because this is so intriguing. So, when you heard that voice and finally, we will help you, and the colors started to come back, well, what were you thinking and feeling then? I mean, did you doubt it at all? Like, did that really happen? What just happened here? What?
No, the
No?
doubt was in the middle, but when I got the voice and everything came back, I'm like, I just had a very remarkable experience. And I will keep my eyes open, and anything that comes my way that feels like it's moving me forward, I will follow. And I did.
Mm-hmm.
I
And
have.
you did.
And I still
Wow.
do.
So, what a tipping point. And I can see where you talk about values because you were frustrated all around the values like this event and probably other things too, right? It wasn't going the way you expected, but the disappointment lied in what you valued in the group and to be there for, right?
Yes, it's what
Yeah.
made me righteous about it. And what I
Yeah.
had to realize out of that too, which I do now, is not everybody shares my values. Who cares?
Hmm.
If I have values, then I live from them. That's me. I live from them. I do it. I don't expect I gave up expectations about others. I, in agreements with people, I do get very, very clear about what is expected. Right. But like, not expected. I just use that word. It's not expected. It's what can the two of us agree to towards achieving the goal for whatever we're going to do. So if it's, yeah, we're going to have a get to know you call. Okay, great. Are we going to do that via Zoom? On what time? Which of us is going to send the Zoom, if you will? And like I said, sometimes life will intervene, but I don't feel like it is getting at me anymore. I don't feel like life is out to conspire against me. And
Hmm.
that's because I am keeping my vibration, my frequency, as Einstein would say, at a high level. Like I
Hmm.
look at the world from that, I'm going to say elevated perspective. And I'm not elevated. The frequency is. And the frequency says when you're there, on some level, everything is working out perfectly. Everything is working out no matter what it looks like right now. It's all working itself out. Just stay there. And so now I don't take it out on other people.
Hmm. So that sounds like a lot of trust to me, like trust in trust in the situation, trust in others, trust in yourself that you're in alignment where you should be and it will work
Yeah,
out.
I think it's because I had that experience, which is was unusual for me. I mean, for anybody, but it came to me. I trust that there is something bigger than all of us.
Hmm.
I don't know why it came to me in a voice, except frequency is sound. It does come in sound. And so why I was able to understand it, I don't understand. But I believe that something came to me for me to wake me up.
Hmm.
And so when that's what I trust in. I trust that I know how to follow divine guidance for
Hmm.
me. And that if it feels good in me, then I'm going to follow it. And then I also believe in playing, exploring, and discovering. So nothing is success or failure. I set goals. I know that some of my goals will get fulfilled when I want them to, and other goals won't. And that doesn't mean I failed. It means there's more for me to discover and learn so that I can't fulfill it.
Hmm.
Maybe I have to create more vibrational strength. And folks listening to this, why does she keep talking about vibration and frequency? Because that's what Einstein's work was all about. Everything is energy. There's nothing
So,
else except energy.
so I think you said something there. I think for those who aren't really clear on vibration, like what is she talking about? What does that mean? Can you explain that?
Yep. Yep. So in quantum physics, this is where Einstein's work was the breakthrough. He identified that everything is energy. He wouldn't say it's made of energy, it just is energy. And whether it looks like it's moving or it's not moving, it's moving. It just could be moving on such a slow pace. There's no way our eyes can take that in. Well, the movement is considered oscillation. That's it moves, and that's the word for it. The movement of energy is oscillation. The oscillation speed can be measured, and that's frequency. So, energy, oscillation, or vibration, and frequency, they're all the same thing.
Okay.
So, what there are many, and anybody can Google this, and you don't have to have a science degree. You could just look up the frequency of the human body, the frequency of thoughts, the frequency of emotions. They've all been measured, and there's a standard.
Yeah.
And we don't even need to look it up, Carbon, because when we get around people who are negative, we can feel their energy.
You walk in a room sometimes, right?
Yeah,
And you're like,
yeah,
whoa.
yeah.
And so, to your point, too, I mean, for me personally, that's when I think about neutrality, not getting sucked down, if that makes sense, and remaining neutral and then observing. And neutral for me is where I'm at, right? So wherever that is. And like, and that also requires like a judgment free. It's like you sense it, you recognize it, and you maintain.
My own. Exactly.
Yes, yes.
Exactly. So on
Be,
the
be,
scale of emotions, at the bottom is shame. Like if somebody is walking around with shame, trying not to let other people know they have it, they can't hide it. The energy emanates, the sound waves come out, and we feel the vibration.
mm-hmm,
That's now most people couldn't put it into words. They would just go, something doesn't feel right here. Something doesn't feel good here. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's there.
mm-hmm,
Conversely, if somebody is feeling peaceful, we can feel that from them too. And we might say, oh, look at, they've got a peaceful expression on their face. But it's not actually the expression on their face we're feeling, it's the sound wave that's coming off of them, which fills the space with peace. Is that
mm-hmm,
what you? So that's why I'm saying we don't need charts or any of that to know whether we're in the presence of high vibration or low vibration.
mm-hmm.
And we can feel it within ourselves, right?
And so, Stacey, then let's say we recognize we're in a lower vibration. We're feeling some sadness and some shame and some frustration and anger. And you know what? I want to get out of that because I've also been at a higher level. How does one do that?
Well, the way that most people would tell you to do that, and I apologize in advance to all the mindset coaches, I used to be one until I realized that's the long way. And you may never, ever get to the destination because we have to go through so much old muck in the mind that's been formed there. I mean, they're memories. They will stay there. So if we attempt to get to someplace else through the mind, first we have to manage all the limiting beliefs. It's exhausting and it's tiring. It takes a long time. Versus if I say to a client, and I do all the time, do you have a favorite song? And does it uplift you? They'll say yes. I say, and do me a favor, think about that song. Let it play in your mind for a couple of minutes. And then I'll say to them, do you feel any different than you did a few minutes ago? And they'll say, oh, yeah, I feel good. Why? Well, I guess because of the song. Uh huh. Sound frequencies. Sound frequencies. When we're around positive sound frequencies, we immediately shift our thoughts and our emotions. When we're around positive people, if we allow them to contribute to us and we don't compare, why are they so happy and I'm not, which is what a lot of people do. They instead of enjoying the positive, they focus back on their own negative. So
Mm-hmm.
it just feeds itself.
Which it, like you said, Fiji, it keeps you there.
Keeps you there.
Uh-huh.
So comparison, negativity, instead of just, oh, there's a positive person. Let me get in their energy and let it raise me up. So that's how you fix it that fast.
Mm-hmm. So in everyday life, if you don't have music going, or where else can we look to tap into for that higher vibration, that frequency?
Nature has very high vibrations. So getting that when they talk about hugging a tree,
Yes.
It may sound silly, but truly trees give off high vibration energy. Go hug
Mm-hmm.
it. Let it get into you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also say anything, like if you, in the our day and age, it is so easy because we can get on the internet and let's say art fills us up in a positive way. Go find an artist whose works lift you up. They're on the internet. You
Mm-hmm.
can
I'm one
get,
of those.
yeah, yeah, you get left,
Yeah, I'm
left.
totally into that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
also can go on YouTube, and there are many, 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 many people who make sure that they're sharing positive vibration information and
Mm-hmm.
energy. And there's lots and lots of high vibration music, Salveggio music. So it's, I would say somebody would have to be really without devices, completely without devices, and no ability to be around even a tree or grass. I mean, get out and take your shoes off and ground in the grass. The earth has wonderful,
Mm-hmm.
wonderful frequency, right?
Yes.
That's how, in all these ways, there is the possibility to lift ourselves up. However, because frequency attracts like frequency, low vibration emotions tend to attract other people with low vibration emotions.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very difficult to break the cycle of being around people with low vibration emotions.
In my experience working with people who, well, I was a nurse practitioner for like 40 years, right? And I even then, before I even tapped into my artistry and nature or being in nature and things, I would recommend, and I was a neuropsychiatry, and I would recommend like get outside, go look at something and look at it from the side, look at it from up above, look all the different ways and just take it in because beauty and acknowledging and taking in beauty helps your body to feel better. It's chemically known. And now we're talking about frequency and vibration. Like it changes the chemistry in your body and it can help you to feel better. And when we're a little bit stuck in that negative spiral, so to speak, or that slower vibration, the response was usually, oh, that's just so silly. I'm not going to do that. And
Exactly.
so it'd be, okay, well, that's your choice. It is a free version of a little bit of tweaking to help you feel better. I'm offering, but you don't have to do it. But it could help, right? It's not going to hurt, but it can
Here,
help.
I can tell you another story that happened long before that story I've already told, but it's
Go
very
for
much
it.
about me in this situation. All right. I was a very negative kid. I just was. There are lots of reasons for it. Doesn't matter. I was. Not anymore. And as a young adult in my first job, I thought I was being positive, that I was the one. I always celebrated people's birthdays. I was in early, I was there late, and I had developed resentment that I thought other people couldn't really pick up on, right? Because I was still doing all the stuff. Well, my birthday was coming up, and I was sure that nobody was going to do anything about it because I was always the one that did everything, right? That nobody was going to care, that all the ways that I had been dumped on, that I'm just saying, I sound like a spoiled brat, but I was at the time feeling justified that I had expended so much on other people and the likelihood of them giving me one iota of attention. And I know I'm not the only person in the world who's ever felt this way, but I did
No.
at the time. Well, the Saturday before the work week where my birthday was going to be, I woke up extremely depressed, extremely depressed. And I said, there's one way for me to not have to deal with that. And I did contemplate taking myself out of this world. I went through all the different scenarios that were available to me in the house. And I'm not going to go into them here. I don't want to give anybody ideas. But every one of them either scared me or I wasn't sure I was actually going to be fully successful. And then my life would be even worse, right? So if I hurt myself but didn't kill myself, that would be worse. Okay, to have to live my life that way. So once I had exhausted all the possibilities and I was left with, now what am I going to do? I decided that I would call for help. And so I looked for a psychologist, psychiatrist, behavior therapist, looked them up. And I near my home because I actually didn't have a car that particular day. So I was like, well, maybe I can walk because I lived in a smaller village. And if there was somebody nearby, I could walk to them. And how I got this number, I just did. I called the number. The person answered the phone. His name was Dr. Para, Peara. I'm sure he's long gone. This was like 40 years ago. That man answered the phone that Saturday morning. And I said, I'd like to make an appointment to come in and see you. And I told him a little bit. And he said, well, what are you doing right now? And I said, nothing. And he said, well, why don't you come now? I said, really? It's a Saturday. He's like, yeah, just come now. So I did. He was just a few blocks away, walked over, sat down. And this relates back to what you were saying about perception and being open and how ridiculous it could sound. So I told him my whole long story, sub story. And he says to me after all of it, he said, okay, I want you to do something for me this week. I said, what? He said, right before anything you think is going to go bad, I want you to say to yourself, there's a real possibility that, and then fill in the blank. And I said, so just to be clear, if I think somebody's going to complain about something I do at work, before I talk to them, I say, there's a real possibility that they're going to treat me well. He said, yes. I said, and on my birthday, when I'm sure they're not going to do anything, I say, there's a real possibility they're going to do something. He said, yes, exactly. And I just thought it was the stupidest piece of advice I had ever heard. And he said, and I'll make you bet, because I didn't have a lot of money at the time either, as I'm sure you could all tell. He said, you come back next Saturday. You tell me honestly that you did this. You tell me that nothing worked, that everything was just as bad as you expected it to be. And he said, I won't charge you for the session. And I'm kind of competitive. So I said, okay. And I did it because if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. But I didn't expect different results, except I got different results. This one woman in the art department who used to, because I was an advertising account executive, who used to make my life miserable, didn't that week. Before I had to go in any time to meet with her, I would just say, there's a real possibility. I remember her name. I won't say it. I remember there's a real possibility that she is going to treat me nicely. And she did. And then my birthday, I'm just going to tell you, y'all can already tell how the story went. They made a big fuss over me. And I went back on that Saturday and I said, what did you do to me? He said, what do you mean? I said, what did you do to me? He said, all I did was ask you to say, there's a real possibility. Did you do it? I said, yes. He said, that's what I did to you. I asked you to do it and you did it. And that set me off on my whole years and years of understanding frequency because there is no other explanation for that. He didn't drug me. I wasn't taking any drug, I wasn't drinking. The only thing I did was change the vibration of what I was saying to myself.
Story, Stacey. That's a
But
great
it,
story. Do you draw on that still?
oh,
Do you think?
constantly.
Yeah,
First thing I
me
do
too.
with my clients.
Me too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I will tell you as about 10 years ago, and as a fairly new entrepreneur, so I was transitioning from clinical to entrepreneur. I had no idea what I was doing. And I was told I needed to attend networking meetings. My thought, even as a pretty positive person, my thought was, oh no, I can't do that. I don't know what I'm going to say. They're more successful than me. They're all the stuff, right? All the stuff. And I would literally go. And when it was like 3 or 4 people before I'm supposed to stand and introduce myself, I would excuse myself to the bathroom and keep going to my car and not coming back. It was so frightful for me. But like the second or third time I went, so he said, I see you running away. And this was like the best advice because I want you to stop and think that somebody here needs to hear what you have to say or to be in your presence. And that's all you need to worry about. Nothing else. And just be open. And I'm like, but I don't know. There's so much, and I'm not even sure how to introduce myself or what I do because I'm not real clear on it. She goes, I don't really care. She goes, about 75% of us are in the same boat. We're all sweating, but we don't run to the bathroom and keep going. We just don't. You can't do that. And I'm like, okay. She goes, the first time you do it, you'll be fine. You'll see. It'll be fine. And like truly my heart is beating. That's why I have such compassion for new people in groups, right? I'm like, oh, I get it. But I thought, I walked in and go, I'm here to serve, which you brought up, Stacey, in service, right? And to think about I'm here to serve in however that looks like. It took all the pressure off of anything else at all. And it was, self-judgment, because I doubt anybody was sitting there going, man, that was one lousy intro she did for herself. Like, so she doesn't really know what she's doing. Why is she here? Most people were like, ooh, I've been there. Let's
Yeah.
support her.
Oh,
Let's
absolutely.
support her.
She said 75%. I would have thought it
Yeah.
would have been higher. There's always that one person, right, who perfectly comfortable. Everyone else is just white knuckling it and
Yes.
doing it less. So yes,
Yeah.
it's wonderful. And the service part is when we take the attention off of ourselves and we put it on someone else, that's being a lighthouse, which is getting us back to the lighthouse path. It's just that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Can we shine a light on someone else, not in a bad way, but in a way that makes them see it's not so dark where they are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think I hear you saying too, the importance of presence in that, to be present with them in order to be that lighthouse to recognize, but it's like without judgment or expectation, or it's just knowing you're in the right place at the right time and you're present and let things happen. Many of us like a lot of control. We like to know what's going to happen and when and what's that going to look like. But truth is, the more we just sit and wait and watch, the better it
And
is.
keeping the focus on how we want things to go, because as Einstein said, if you want something, you've got to be at the vibration that it is at. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, most people, when they're sitting and waiting, they start worrying about what's going to happen that's not what they want. So
That's
that
right.
would be the discipline
For the good.
for the
Mm-hmm.
good.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Stacey, this has just been so wonderful because I love to deep dive. And you said woo woo, but for me, it's not. It's like, oh no, that's just what it is. And it's wonderful to talk about it and to explain it as you have and made sense of it and with the stories that you've explained. And I think more and more we may get understandings and epiphanies and these and not always recognize it. We're like, oh, wait a second. Hmm, what could that mean?
This
What
one
could
was a
that mean?
neon sign. I'll just
What?
say neon sign for
Yeah.
me. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's at the time, I'm guessing you had to have that neon sign. And so sometimes we get nudges and then other times we just get a swift kick. Now you must listen. Yeah. Oh, I just love that. So In the years that you have, been doing these wonderful things, can you tell me like what felt like success for you in the past? Has it changed as time goes on?
Early on, and I'm not sure that I'm different from anyone else as we tend to get older and live longer and we acquire the things. Success for me early on were the material things, the tangibles, having the stuff. And now success for me is knowing that somebody else feels better, is doing better, had an enjoyable experience because we were together. That's that's how I measure my life. Did I make a difference in a
Mhm,
positive way?
mhm. I love that. And what a wonderful way to close because, well, let me just say today, Stacey, you've changed my life in a positive way today. So
Aw.
thank you. Yeah, truly, truly. And I know listeners, you're probably feeling the same thing. We're going to have all the links, all the stuff to Stacey's amazing work in the description. And I'm thinking there needs to be a part two, Stacey, but it's just on my mind right now. So I'm just saying it out loud.
Okay, I'm coming back anytime. You
Uh,
just ask, and I look forward afterwards to hearing what changed for you as well. And thank you for the opportunity for me to share that experience because it wasn't meant just for me. It was for me in that moment. But I bet there was somebody who was supposed to hear it today and it made a difference for them.
Isn't that the truth? We know that. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all of our listeners. And we'll see you in a week or two. Take care. Bye bye.